The second you press play, something locks into place. Not because of sound, not because of words, not because of persuasion, but because timing is not linear. Timing is resonance. When something meets you at the exact moment you are able to recognize it, reality responds immediately. This is not motivation. This is not suggestion. This is recognition activating a stabilized trajectory. A financial quantum shift does not begin when circumstances change. Circumstances are echoes. The shift begins when identity stabilizes into a new baseline. The moment you are no longer seeking proof, the field reorganizes to reflect that certainty. That is why nothing needs to be forced here. Nothing needs to be believed harder. The mechanism is already in motion because you are here now, not earlier, not later. Effort has never been the cause of wealth. Effort is a response to misalignment, not a solution to it. When effort dominates, reality resists. When recognition lands, reality rearranges. This is the difference between pushing a locked door and realizing it was never closed. The upward movement you are experiencing is not acceleration through strain. It is stabilization through coherence. Financial reality responds to who you are being, not what you are doing. Identity sets the floor, not the ceiling. The moment identity relaxes into a higher level of normal, money follows to meet it. This is why this shift does not feel dramatic. Drama belongs to instability. What you are entering now is quieter, calmer, more settled. This is how permanence begins. You are not initiating something new. You are confirming something that was already prepared. The field does not need convincing. It needs clarity. When confusion drops, signals sharpen. When signals sharpen, timelines collapse into the most coherent option. That option is always the one that feels natural, not the one that feels hoped for. Notice what is absent right now. There is no urgency. No bargaining. No inner argument. This absence is not emptiness. It is alignment. And alignment is what money responds to first. Not need. Not desire. Not repetition. Alignment. This is why the upward shift stabilizes the second this is played. Not because of the video, but because of the readiness that made the video reachable. You did not arrive here to change your life. You arrived here because your life already changed internally, and reality is catching up. From this point forward, your role is not to manage the process. Management implies distrust. Your role is to remain coherent. To let the baseline hold. To notice without gripping. To allow without waiting. This is how increases become normal instead of temporary. Nothing has to happen right now for this to be real. The field has already received the instruction. Your only task is not to contradict it. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. Financial reality does not wait for you to understand it. It does not wait for plans, spreadsheets, affirmations, or strategies to be perfected. By the time the mind begins to think, the movement has already started. This is because thought is not the initiator. Thought is a translator that arrives after the signal has been sent. Money reorganizes itself in response to coherence, not cognition. Coherence is a state of internal agreement, where emotion, identity, and expectation are no longer arguing with each other. When that agreement forms, even subtly, the field receives a clear instruction. The mind may still be catching up, but the instruction has already been issued. This is why financial shifts often feel confusing at first. Opportunities appear before confidence does. Relief shows up before explanation. Momentum builds before logic approves it. The intellect then tries to take credit or regain control, assuming it caused the movement. But intellect only notices what coherence has already activated. The old model says you think your way into wealth. The actual mechanism is that you settle into alignment, and thinking adjusts afterward. Strategy is not wrong, but it is secondary. Strategy without coherence collapses. Coherence without strategy still produces movement. This is the part most people never see because they are trained to trust effort more than alignment. When your inner state stabilizes, reality has no choice but to reorganize. Not because it is generous, but because it is precise. The field mirrors what is most consistent, not what is most desired. Consistency comes from identity, not from mental repetition. The moment identity relaxes into certainty, even a quiet one, the outer world begins rearranging its pieces. This is also why trying to force belief backfires. Forcing creates internal contradiction. Contradiction sends mixed instructions. Mixed instructions slow manifestation. Calm recognition, on the other hand, sends a clean signal. Clean signals move quickly. They do not require emotional intensity. They require clarity. You may notice that your financial thoughts are already changing without effort. Worries losing their grip. Old fears feeling irrelevant. Not resolved, just outdated. This is not positive thinking. This is alignment dissolving what no longer matches. The mind follows because it must. It cannot override the field's response to coherence. Understanding this removes pressure. You do not need to figure out how money will move. You do not need to predict outcomes. Prediction belongs to control, and control belongs to mistrust. Your only relevance is the state you occupy now. When that state is stable, reality does the rest automatically. This is why recognition matters more than repetition. Recognition locks coherence. Repetition tries to create it artificially. One is instant. The other is exhausting. You are not here to work harder. You are here to stop interfering with what has already begun. If this recognition has landed, like the video now as a confirmation that this recognition has landed. Recognition is a collapse, not a construction. It happens all at once, without strain, without build-up. Effort, on the other hand, is additive. It stacks attempts on top of uncertainty and hopes one day the weight becomes convincing enough. That day never comes. This is why repetition fails when recognition has not occurred. You cannot rehearse yourself into coherence. Repetition is the mind trying to manufacture certainty. Recognition is certainty noticing itself. One is loud and exhausting. The other is quiet and final. When recognition lands, there is nothing left to say internally. No argument to continue. No technique to apply. The system stops searching because it has arrived. Forcing is the clearest signal that recognition has not yet occurred. Force carries tension. Tension implies resistance. Resistance tells the field that something is being opposed or corrected. The field does not respond to correction. It responds to dominant states. When forcing is present, the dominant state is lack, even if the words sound confident. Calm knowing is different. Calm knowing does not try to persuade reality. It does not scan for evidence. It does not rush to confirm. It simply rests. That rest is not passivity. It is alignment without friction. When friction disappears, movement becomes inevitable. This is why results stabilize instead of oscillate. Most people repeat affirmations because they do not trust the silence that follows recognition. Silence feels empty to the mind. The mind wants activity so it can feel useful. But activity after recognition reintroduces doubt. It asks the question again that was already answered. Each repetition becomes a subtle contradiction. Recognition ends the question. That is the switch. Not saying something again. Not visualizing harder. Not emotional intensity. Recognition is when the body relaxes into agreement. When the breath deepens without instruction. When urgency dissolves without explanation. These are not side effects. They are indicators that coherence has locked in. Once coherence is stable, reality has no alternative but to mirror it. Not dramatically, not instantly in visible form, but reliably. The process becomes boring in the best way. Money moves without announcement. Opportunities align without fanfare. The nervous system stays neutral instead of reactive. This is how permanence is built. Effort creates spikes. Recognition creates baselines. Spikes feel exciting but collapse quickly because they are unsustainable. Baselines feel understated but endure because they are natural. Financial stability is not an event. It is a condition. Conditions are set internally before they are seen externally. If you find yourself wanting to do something after hearing this, notice that impulse. That impulse is old conditioning. The habit of proving. The reflex of earning. You do not need to suppress it. Simply do not obey it. Let recognition stand on its own. It does not require defense. This is where resistance collapses. Not through struggle, but through irrelevance. Resistance fades when it is no longer needed. When identity no longer argues with itself, the field receives a single, clear signal. That signal stabilizes outcomes automatically. Nothing more is required. Recognition has already done the work. Money is not governed by chance, morality, or effort. It is governed by law. Not a human law, but a structural one. Financial flow follows the same mechanics as all interaction with the field: signal, coherence, response. This is where understanding replaces confusion. Not to control the process, but to stop misreading it. Emotion is not a reaction to money. Emotion is the instruction money responds to. Before numbers move, accounts shift, or opportunities appear, the emotional field has already spoken. The field does not interpret words or intentions. It reads states. Emotion is the language of those states. When emotion is expansive, open, and grounded, the instruction is clear. Expansion says, there is room. It signals safety, stability, and capacity. Financial flow moves toward capacity because capacity can hold it. When emotion is contracted, tight, or urgent, the instruction is equally clear. Contraction says, there is threat. Money does not move into threat. It pauses, diverts, or destabilizes. This is not punishment. It is feedback. Expansion and contraction are guidance signals, not judgments. Expansion indicates alignment with your current identity. Contraction indicates misalignment. Neither is wrong. Both are navigational. The problem arises when contraction is misunderstood as failure instead of instruction. When contraction is resisted, it intensifies. When it is observed, it resolves. Most people try to override contraction with positive thinking. That does not work. The field does not respond to emotional denial. It responds to emotional honesty. Allowing contraction without identifying with it softens it. Softening restores flow. This is the mechanic. Financial stability increases when emotional signals are trusted instead of fought. When something feels heavy, restrictive, or draining, that sensation is not an obstacle. It is a course correction. Ignoring it leads to repeated patterns. Listening to it leads to refinement. This is why forcing action during contraction often backfires. Action taken from contraction carries distortion. Distortion creates unpredictable outcomes. Action taken from expansion carries coherence. Coherence creates smooth results. The difference is not the action. It is the emotional state behind it. Expansion does not mean excitement. Excitement is unstable. Expansion feels open, neutral, spacious. It feels like breath returning to the body. It feels like time slowing down instead of speeding up. This is the state money recognizes as safe to move toward. You do not need to chase expansion. You only need to stop overriding your signals. When you respect emotional feedback, the system self-regulates. Income finds its level. Opportunities align without pressure. Decisions become obvious instead of confusing. This is why financial mastery is emotional literacy, not discipline. Discipline without alignment creates burnout. Alignment creates momentum without effort. The field does not reward endurance. It responds to coherence. Once this is understood, you stop asking why something isn't working and start noticing what your state is communicating. That shift alone corrects trajectory. Not instantly in appearance, but immediately in direction. Money always follows the clearest instruction. Emotion is how that instruction is delivered. Desire feels like movement, but it is actually a signal of absence. It says something is missing now, and that message is what the field responds to. Wanting more money does not invite money in. It highlights the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. That gap becomes the dominant instruction. Stability works differently. Stability does not ask. It assumes. It does not reach forward. It settles downward into sufficiency. And sufficiency is not settling for less. Sufficiency is the internal condition where nothing is urgently required to change for you to feel grounded. That grounded state is what allows increase to occur without friction. Income does not expand toward desire. It expands toward capacity. Capacity is created by internal stability. When your nervous system is calm, when your identity is not negotiating with fear, when your sense of self is not dependent on outcomes, money has somewhere to land. Without stability, increase feels unsafe to the system, so it either does not arrive or does not stay. This is why chasing more often produces cycles instead of growth. Cycles are created by instability. There is a spike, followed by contraction, followed by recovery, followed by effort. This loop continues until stability replaces desire as the dominant state. When stability is present, growth becomes linear instead of volatile. Sufficiency is misunderstood because it is associated with complacency. In reality, sufficiency is the foundation of expansion. It says, this moment is complete. Completion signals safety. Safety allows resources to move freely. When the system senses safety, it no longer needs to conserve. It can circulate. Desire tightens the body. Stability relaxes it. That relaxation is not laziness. It is coherence. Coherence removes internal conflict. When there is no conflict, the instruction to the field is singular. Singular instructions move quickly. Fragmented instructions stall. You do not need to eliminate desire. Desire dissolves naturally when stability is present. The moment you stop needing money to validate your worth or secure your identity, money stops being pressured. Pressure repels. Neutrality attracts. This is also why gratitude alone does not create wealth if it is used to mask fear. Gratitude layered on instability still communicates instability. Authentic sufficiency is quieter. It does not perform appreciation. It rests in adequacy. That resting state is magnetic. When you notice yourself wanting more, do not correct it. Observe it. Wanting is feedback. It shows where stability has not yet settled. Instead of chasing the object of desire, stabilize the state beneath it. Income will adjust on its own. This is not about lowering ambition. It is about removing desperation from ambition. Ambition without desperation is clean. It moves without strain. It allows growth without collapse. The moment sufficiency becomes your baseline, increase no longer feels like a solution. It feels like a natural extension. That is when it stabilizes. Comment with the words, I am ready, to anchor this timeline. Control feels responsible. It feels like maturity. It feels like doing what is required to make sure things work. But control is not leadership. Control is resistance disguised as diligence. It is the nervous system bracing against uncertainty and calling that tension management. Financial flow does not respond to control because control communicates mistrust. It says the present moment is not sufficient, that outcomes must be monitored, corrected, or forced into place. The field does not argue with this signal. It mirrors it. When mistrust is dominant, flow slows. When tension leads, complexity increases. Letting go of control does not mean doing nothing. It means releasing the belief that your tension is what keeps things working. Allowing is not passive. Allowing is responsive. It listens instead of dictates. It moves when movement is clean and pauses when movement would distort the signal. Control narrows perception. When you grip outcomes, your awareness collapses into a single imagined path. Anything outside that path feels like threat or distraction. This is why controlled effort often misses opportunities that do not match expectation. Allowing widens perception. It lets information arrive from angles the mind could not predict. Trust is not blind faith. Trust is the absence of internal contradiction. It is when your actions, emotions, and expectations are aligned enough that nothing inside is pulling against itself. This internal agreement creates relaxed coherence. Relaxed coherence is the state money moves toward most easily. When coherence is present, timing becomes precise. Decisions feel obvious instead of heavy. You act when the signal is clean and rest when it is not. This rhythm is not lazy. It is efficient. Most wasted effort comes from acting while contracted. Allowing prevents that waste. Control tries to eliminate uncertainty. Allowing accepts uncertainty without threat. The field responds to acceptance faster than it responds to force. Acceptance tells the system there is safety even without guarantees. Safety unlocks circulation. Circulation increases income. This is why micromanaging money often creates volatility. Every attempt to tighten creates rebound. Every attempt to dominate creates resistance. When you loosen your grip, patterns smooth out. Cash flow becomes steadier. Outcomes stabilize. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped interfering. Relaxed coherence does not mean ignoring details. It means details no longer carry emotional charge. You handle logistics without identity attachment. You respond instead of react. This neutrality removes distortion from decision-making. Clean decisions compound. Distorted decisions require correction. The paradox is that when you stop trying to control results, results become more reliable. Reliability is not built through vigilance. It is built through alignment. Alignment removes friction. Friction is what creates delays, blocks, and reversals. Notice how your body feels when you release the need to manage every step. The shoulders drop. The breath deepens. That physiological shift is not incidental. It is the signal the field reads. It says capacity has increased. When capacity increases, flow follows. Income does not need to be chased or constrained. It needs space. Letting go of control creates that space. Within it, money organizes itself with far less effort than you were taught to believe. This is not surrender to chaos. It is cooperation with order. Creation does not happen over time. It happens in the present. This is not philosophy. It is mechanics. Every outcome you see is the delayed echo of a state that was once active now. When money shifts, it is never moving toward you from the future. It is reorganizing itself in response to what is stable in this moment. The future is a mental projection. It has no signal of its own. When you think about money arriving later, you are not communicating with a future event. You are communicating your current state of waiting. Waiting becomes the instruction. The field responds by maintaining the state of not yet. This is why future-based manifestation delays reception instead of accelerating it. Money only responds to what is embodied now. Not what is planned. Not what is hoped for. Not what is visualized as coming. Embodiment is presence. It is the condition of being settled in the current moment without needing it to be different to feel complete. That completeness is what allows reorganization. When the present moment is treated as a stepping stone, it collapses. When it is treated as sufficient, it stabilizes. Stability in the now is what gives money permission to move. Without stability, movement would feel unsafe to the system. With stability, movement becomes natural. This is why obsessing over timelines creates resistance. Timelines are selected by identity, not tracked by thought. The moment you check how long something is taking, you reintroduce the identity of someone waiting. That identity has a frequency. The field mirrors it faithfully. You do not need to stop thinking about the future. You need to stop living there emotionally. Practical planning can exist without energetic displacement. You can organize logistics while remaining present. Presence is not inaction. Presence is non-anticipation. When anticipation dominates, the nervous system stays slightly tense. That tension communicates incompletion. Incompletion stalls reception. When anticipation dissolves, the body relaxes. Relaxation signals readiness. Readiness accelerates reorganization. Notice how money moves fastest when you are not thinking about it. This is not coincidence. In those moments, you are fully present. There is no grasping. No monitoring. No checking. The signal is clean. The field responds quickly to clean signals. The now is not a narrow point in time. It is the only access point to creation. Everything that appears does so through it. When you align with now, you align with the engine itself. When you postpone satisfaction until later, you disconnect from that engine. This does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means allowing the present to be complete even if circumstances are still adjusting. Completion is internal. Adjustment is external. External changes always lag behind internal stabilization. The paradox is that the moment you stop waiting for money to arrive, money begins to move. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped displacing your power into the future. Creation is immediate. Results are delayed reflections. Stay with the cause, not the echo. Contrast has been misunderstood as a verdict. As if difficulty were evidence of failure, or struggle a sign that something went wrong. But contrast is not punishment. It is calibration. It exists to refine clarity, not to judge worth. Without contrast, alignment would be vague. With it, preference sharpens. Every period of financial pressure revealed something specific. Not about what you lacked, but about what you would no longer tolerate. Scarcity clarified boundaries. Instability clarified the need for structure. Friction clarified where coherence was missing. None of this was random. It was instructive. The field does not teach through comfort alone. Comfort stabilizes. Contrast educates. When resistance appears, it highlights misalignment with precision. It shows where effort was compensating for uncertainty, where control replaced trust, where identity was anchored to survival instead of stability. What felt like failure was feedback. What felt like delay was refinement. Each constriction forced attention inward, away from external solutions and toward internal consistency. This is why contrast often precedes expansion. It compresses the signal so that when expansion arrives, it holds. People who skip contrast struggle to maintain growth. They have not developed the internal structure required to hold increase. Contrast builds that structure. It strengthens discernment. It eliminates false desires. It reveals what actually matters instead of what was inherited or assumed. Financial struggle does not mean you were off path. It means the path was being clarified. Alignment is not discovered in ease alone. It is discovered when something no longer works. When old strategies fail, deeper intelligence is invited forward. The mistake is identifying with contrast instead of learning from it. Identification says, this is who I am. Calibration says, this is what needs adjustment. When contrast is taken personally, it hardens into story. When it is taken informationally, it dissolves once the message is received. Notice how many old fears no longer have energy. Not because they were solved, but because they were outgrown. That outgrowing happened through contrast. The pressure refined perception until the old pattern could no longer sustain itself. Contrast does not need to be prolonged. It persists only when its signal is ignored. The moment the lesson is integrated, the sensation fades. The field has no interest in repeating itself unnecessarily. It only repeats when the message has not landed. This reframing changes everything. You no longer need to fix the past or reinterpret it emotionally. You only need to recognize what it trained. Every contraction strengthened discernment. Every limitation clarified alignment. Every delay sharpened readiness. From this perspective, nothing was wasted. Nothing went wrong. The refinement is complete because you can see it now without resistance. That clarity is evidence that calibration has finished its work. Expansion that follows refinement is stable. It does not swing wildly. It rests on understanding instead of hope. This is why what comes next feels different. Not exciting in a fragile way, but solid. Contrast did its job. You do not need to carry it forward. Waiting is not a pause in time. It is an identity. It is the subtle decision to locate fulfillment somewhere other than now. When you are waiting for money, you are not neutral. You are positioned as someone incomplete. That position carries a signal, and the field mirrors it with precision. Waiting says, it hasn't arrived yet. The field responds by maintaining the state of not yet. This is not punishment. It is consistency. Reality reflects the dominant self-concept, not the desired outcome. As long as the identity of the receiver is future-based, receiving stays deferred. Receiving begins the moment waiting ends. Not because something external changes, but because the internal posture shifts. Neutral receptivity is not excitement. It is not expectation. It is not vigilance. It is the absence of anticipation. It is the state where nothing is required to happen for you to remain settled. Neutrality is often mistaken for indifference. It is not. It is readiness without tension. It is openness without grasping. When neutrality is present, the body is relaxed, the mind is quiet, and attention is anchored here. This state communicates capacity. Capacity invites flow. Most people think they are open to receiving, but they are secretly monitoring. Monitoring is a form of waiting. It checks for progress, signs, proof. Each check reinforces the identity of someone who does not yet have. That identity delays reception, even when conditions are otherwise aligned. Receiving feels ordinary. That is why it is missed. There is no fanfare. No emotional spike. No internal announcement. Things simply move. Opportunities show up without anticipation. Money arrives without relief. The absence of drama is the indicator that receiving has begun. You do not transition into receiving by convincing yourself to stop waiting. You transition by noticing that waiting no longer makes sense. When identity stabilizes, waiting becomes unnecessary. The nervous system no longer scans the horizon. Attention rests where it is. This shift is subtle but decisive. One moment, there is a sense of soon. The next, there is no timeline at all. Not because the desire disappeared, but because it is no longer projected forward. It has been integrated into the present. Receiving is immediate because it is present-based. It does not depend on future conditions. It depends on current coherence. When coherence is stable, reception begins even if appearances lag. The internal shift always precedes the external reflection. Notice how effort dissolves here. There is nothing to chase, nothing to fix, nothing to prepare for. Preparation belongs to waiting. Readiness belongs to receiving. Readiness is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply is. This is why people often say things arrived out of nowhere. They did not arrive suddenly. Waiting ended. That is all. The signal changed. The field responded. You are not moving toward receiving. You are releasing the identity that delayed it. Once that identity drops, reception is no longer an event. It becomes a condition. Let the body settle. Let the moment be complete. The act of waiting has already ended if you can see it. Receiving follows automatically. You are not moving through a single financial path. You are standing at the intersection of many. This is where the idea of timelines becomes relevant, not as science fiction, but as a practical description of how reality organizes itself around identity. What you experience financially is not something you pull toward you. It is something you step into by who you are being. Money is not attracted. Attraction implies distance. Timelines are already present. Parallel financial realities coexist, each with its own level of ease, stability, and flow. The one that becomes visible is the one that matches your self-concept most consistently. Consistency is the selector. A timeline is not chosen by desire. Desire points to preference, but preference alone does not stabilize reality. Timelines are selected by identity. Identity is what feels normal to you. What feels believable. What feels like it belongs. The field aligns you with what you unconsciously accept as appropriate for someone like you. This is why sudden increases feel uncomfortable to some people. The money may arrive, but the identity cannot hold it, so the system corrects back to familiar levels. The correction is not external sabotage. It is internal mismatch. The timeline with higher flow exists, but it cannot stabilize without a matching self-concept. When identity shifts, the timeline shifts automatically. Not dramatically, not instantly in visible form, but decisively. Small changes begin aligning. Conversations happen. Decisions feel different. Opportunities appear that were always there but previously invisible. Visibility follows resonance. You do not need to imagine new futures. You need to stabilize a new sense of normal now. Normal is powerful. What is normal does not require justification. It does not feel lucky. It does not feel temporary. It simply is. When higher financial flow becomes normal internally, the corresponding timeline becomes accessible. This is also why effort alone cannot move you into a new financial reality. Effort can produce temporary results within the same timeline, but it cannot shift timelines. Timeline movement requires identity movement. Identity movement happens through recognition, not strain. The question is not how to get more money. The question is which version of you is being consistently expressed. That version determines which timeline you are standing in. The field does not reward ambition. It reflects identity. Stable self-concept is the anchor. When your sense of self is calm, coherent, and non-negotiating, the timeline locks in. When identity fluctuates, timelines flicker. Stability creates continuity. Continuity creates compounding results. You do not need to fight old timelines. They dissolve on their own when they are no longer matched. Attention feeds them. Identification sustains them. Neutrality starves them. As your identity settles, lower timelines lose relevance. Higher ones become ordinary. This reframes growth completely. You are not climbing upward. You are stepping sideways into a parallel track that has always existed. The step is internal. The result appears external. Once you see this, you stop trying to attract outcomes and start stabilizing states. The correct timeline responds immediately to stability. Not because it is generous, but because it is precise. You are already standing at the junction. Identity decides which direction becomes real. Money does not arrive as an abstract reward. It fills a container. That container is identity. Identity determines how much can be held, circulated, and sustained without internal disruption. When money exceeds identity capacity, it does not feel like success. It feels like pressure. The system responds by releasing the excess. Income levels are not random. They are proportional to what feels normal to you. Normal is not what you want. It is what you expect without thinking. It is what your nervous system can hold without bracing. That is the true ceiling until identity expands. This is why sudden windfalls often disappear. The money itself was not the problem. The mismatch was. Identity had not yet recalibrated to include that level of flow as safe or ordinary. Safety matters more than desire. When safety is threatened, the system corrects back to familiar territory. Identity capacity is built through coherence, not confidence. Confidence can be performed. Coherence cannot. Coherence is the internal agreement between self-worth, expectation, and emotional regulation. When those are aligned, capacity increases naturally. Money then fills the space without destabilizing anything. Trying to force a higher income without expanding identity is like pouring water into a cracked vessel. The water leaks, spills, or creates stress fractures. The solution is not less water. It is strengthening the container. Strengthening happens through stabilization, not effort. This is why personal growth precedes sustainable financial growth. Not as a moral requirement, but as a mechanical one. Identity must be able to remain relaxed at higher levels of flow. If higher income triggers vigilance, fear, or urgency, identity will unconsciously reduce it to restore equilibrium. Self-concept is the quiet regulator. It determines what you believe you can manage, deserve, and maintain without self-monitoring. When self-concept shifts, money adjusts automatically. No struggle is required. The field simply fills the available space. You do not expand identity by pretending. Pretending introduces internal conflict. Conflict reduces capacity. Identity expands when you repeatedly experience stability at a slightly higher level and remain regulated. Regulation teaches the system that increase is safe. Safety allows repetition. Repetition establishes normal. This process is gradual but reliable. Each stable increase becomes the new floor. From there, capacity grows again. This is how sustainable wealth is built. Not through spikes, but through incremental normalization. Notice how your body responds when you imagine consistent financial ease. Not excitement. Not fantasy. Just steadiness. If tension appears, that is the current edge of identity. That edge is not a flaw. It is information. It shows where stabilization is still integrating. You do not need to push past that edge. Pushing creates backlash. You need to rest at it until it feels ordinary. Once ordinary, the edge moves on its own. This is expansion without strain. Money will never punish you by exceeding your capacity. It simply mirrors it. When capacity grows, money follows. When identity stabilizes, income stabilizes. This is not personal. It is precise. Your work is not to chase higher numbers. It is to become the version of yourself for whom those numbers are unremarkable. When they are unremarkable internally, they become unavoidable externally. Hope feels positive, but it is still a signal of distance. It implies that what you want exists somewhere else, sometime later. Hope looks forward. The field responds by keeping the outcome forward. This is why hope sustains movement but rarely completes it. It keeps the system reaching instead of receiving. Certainty works differently. Certainty is not emotional. It is not loud. It does not hype itself. Certainty is quiet agreement with reality before it appears. It is the absence of internal debate. When certainty is present, nothing inside is asking, wondering, or negotiating. The instruction to the field is clean. The field responds to certainty because certainty is stable. Stability is the language of manifestation. Emotional intensity fluctuates. Hope rises and falls. Excitement spikes and crashes. Neutral certainty remains consistent. Consistency is what allows reality to reorganize quickly and sustainably. Neutrality is often mistaken for lack of faith. In truth, neutrality is deep trust. It is the trust that does not need reassurance. It does not scan for signs. It does not require emotional reinforcement. It simply expects coherence to express itself in form. When neutrality is present, there is no urgency. Urgency implies risk. Risk triggers contraction. Contraction slows flow. Calm certainty removes the perception of risk. When risk dissolves, movement accelerates naturally. This is why trying to feel intensely positive can backfire. Intensity often hides fear. Fear of it not happening. Fear of losing momentum. Fear of disappointment. The field does not separate the layers. It reads the dominant undercurrent. If fear is present beneath positivity, fear is the instruction. Certainty has no undercurrent. It is singular. It does not require emotional maintenance. It does not need to be protected. It allows attention to move elsewhere without destabilizing the outcome. This is why things manifest fastest when you stop focusing on them. Trust is not belief. Belief can be shaken. Trust is regulation. It is the nervous system remaining calm in uncertainty. When the nervous system is regulated, identity remains intact. When identity is intact, timelines stabilize. Financial reality reorganizes faster in calm states because there is no interference. Interference comes from checking, doubting, correcting, and reasserting desire. Each of those actions reintroduces separation. Certainty eliminates separation by removing the question entirely. You do not need to convince yourself that something will happen. Convincing implies resistance. You need to notice when you no longer need convincing. That moment is certainty. It often arrives quietly, without ceremony. Once certainty is present, action becomes simple. You do what is obvious and ignore what is not. You do not rush. You do not hesitate. Movement becomes proportional instead of forced. Hope keeps you moving forward. Certainty lets things arrive. One is a bridge. The other is the destination. The field always responds faster to what is settled than to what is anticipated. Let hope soften into trust. Let trust settle into neutrality. From that state, reality reorganizes without effort, because nothing inside is asking it to do otherwise. You have been taught to see money as something external. As a system you must enter, navigate, or survive within. But this framing is inverted. You are not inside the system. The system is inside you. What you experience financially is not imposed from the outside. It is generated from the inside out, through consciousness itself. Consciousness is not a byproduct of reality. It is the medium reality moves through. Money, markets, opportunities, and outcomes are patterns within that medium. They do not exist independently of perception and identity. They respond to it. When this is recognized, the power dynamic reverses. You are not reacting to financial conditions. Financial conditions are reacting to your state. Not to your thoughts, not to your plans, but to your level of coherence as consciousness expressing itself through form. This is not metaphorical. It is functional. The system appears external because perception is focused outward. But the organizing intelligence that gives the system structure originates within awareness. When awareness shifts, the system reorganizes. Not instantly in appearance, but immediately in direction. This is why trying to dominate money from the outside never works for long. Domination assumes separation. Separation creates struggle. Struggle reinforces the illusion of powerlessness. The loop continues until the premise is questioned. Once you see that money is a reflection, not an authority, effort softens. Fear loses relevance. You no longer negotiate with outcomes. You stabilize internally and let the mirror adjust. The field you are interacting with is not outside you. It is an extension of you. It responds to what is most consistent within you. When identity is fragmented, outcomes are unstable. When identity is coherent, outcomes stabilize. This does not make you responsible for everything that has happened. Responsibility implies blame. This is not about blame. It is about authorship. Authorship means recognizing where influence actually originates. When you stop seeing money as something that grants safety, you stop giving it authority. Safety becomes internal. Once safety is internal, money can flow without being burdened by emotional dependency. Dependency distorts flow. Neutrality restores it. You are not meant to manage the system. You are meant to embody coherence so the system aligns around you. This is why effort reduces over time when alignment increases. Less needs to be done because less is being resisted. This perspective removes urgency. Urgency only exists when power is believed to be elsewhere. When power is reclaimed as internal, timing becomes irrelevant. Things arrive when coherence allows them to be received. You do not need to fight structures, escape systems, or outsmart markets. Those approaches still assume external dominance. Instead, you remain stable as the source through which those structures organize themselves. This is the shift from participation to origination. You are no longer a player reacting to rules. You are the field within which rules take shape. When this recognition settles, money stops feeling heavy. It stops feeling charged. It becomes informational, responsive, cooperative. The system does not control you. It reflects you. When you change, it follows. The seeker is the identity that believes something essential is missing. It is always oriented forward, scanning for completion, assuming fulfillment exists somewhere else. As long as this identity is active, flow is interrupted. Seeking implies separation. Separation creates distance. Distance delays reception. The moment the seeker dissolves, flow does not need to be created. It is revealed. Flow was never absent. It was obscured by the posture of reaching. Reaching bends awareness toward lack. When reaching stops, awareness relaxes back into wholeness. From wholeness, movement becomes effortless. The seeker believes effort is required to earn alignment. But effort is the behavior of someone who does not yet trust their position. Trust removes the need to pursue. When trust stabilizes, action becomes responsive instead of driven. This is when financial movement feels natural rather than manufactured. Seeking is subtle. It hides inside improvement, optimization, and constant adjustment. It appears productive, but it is rooted in the assumption that now is insufficient. That assumption becomes the instruction the field responds to. The field maintains the experience of insufficiency because it is being reinforced. When the seeker dissolves, there is no longer an internal argument with the present moment. The present is allowed to be complete. Completion is not resignation. It is coherence. Coherence eliminates friction. Friction is what slows flow. Flow does not require direction. It requires openness. When separation collapses, openness is automatic. There is no barrier between intention and response. Decisions arise without overthinking. Opportunities align without being chased. Money moves without being managed emotionally. This does not mean passivity. It means effort is no longer compensating for doubt. Action is taken when it is clean and omitted when it is not. This precision creates efficiency. Efficiency compounds. Compounding creates stability. The seeker identity constantly asks, how do I get there? Flow answers a different question, how do I remain here? Remaining here keeps the signal stable. Stability allows continuity. Continuity produces sustained results. Once the seeker dissolves, comparison fades. Urgency fades. The sense of being behind disappears. There is no timeline to catch up to because nothing is missing. From this state, receiving does not feel like success. It feels normal. This is why flow often appears suddenly after someone stops trying. They did not give up. They stopped positioning themselves as incomplete. The internal posture changed. The field responded immediately. Financial effortlessness is not laziness. It is alignment without resistance. Resistance is exhausting. When resistance drops, energy becomes available. That energy expresses itself as clarity, timing, and synchronicity. You do not dissolve the seeker by fighting it. Fighting keeps it alive. You dissolve it by seeing it clearly. The moment you recognize that nothing is missing, the seeker has no role. It fades naturally. What remains is presence. Presence does not ask for proof. It does not negotiate with outcomes. It moves when movement is appropriate and rests when it is not. This rhythm is the essence of flow. When separation collapses, money no longer feels distant. It becomes responsive, cooperative, ordinary. The seeker is not wrong. It was simply no longer needed. Flow was waiting for it to step aside. What has stabilized now is not an event. It is a baseline. A baseline is not something you reach and risk losing. It is the level reality defaults to when nothing interferes. What has shifted through this sequence is not circumstance, but identity, and identity does not snap back once it has recognized itself. Upward movement becomes permanent when it stops being treated as an exception. Exceptions require maintenance. Baselines do not. A baseline is what feels normal when you are not trying. It is what remains when attention moves elsewhere. That is what has locked in now. This is why there is no celebration here. No peak emotion. No sense of arrival. Permanence does not announce itself. It settles. It becomes ordinary. The absence of drama is the confirmation. When something no longer feels fragile, it no longer needs protection. A new financial minimum has been established internally. Minimum does not mean limit. It means floor. It means what you no longer fall below, regardless of conditions. From this floor, variation may still occur, but collapse does not. Instability required misalignment. Alignment has been recognized. Recognition does not reverse. You are not holding this baseline through vigilance. Vigilance would imply threat. You are holding it through coherence. Coherence is self-sustaining. Once the system experiences safety at a higher level, it does not willingly return to constriction. The nervous system adapts. Identity recalibrates. Reality follows. This is how irreversibility works. Not by promise, but by integration. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unknow that stability does not require strain. You cannot return to believing money is separate once that illusion has dissolved. The structure that supported the old baseline no longer exists. There may still be movement ahead. Growth is natural. But growth will now occur from stability, not from recovery. Expansion will feel like extension, not repair. This is the difference between progress and healing. Healing completes. Progress continues. If contrast appears again, it will not function the same way. It will refine, not threaten. It will inform, not destabilize. The baseline remains intact because identity remains intact. You are no longer orienting from lack, so lack has nothing to attach to. From here, the work is simple. Not easy in the sense of effort, but simple in the sense of clarity. Remain coherent. Do not argue with stability. Do not reintroduce urgency. Let what is now normal remain normal. You do not need to remind yourself of this shift. Reminding implies forgetting is possible. Forgetting only happens when something was intellectual. This was not intellectual. It was experiential. The system has adapted. This is not a moment to hold on to. It is a condition to live from. Quietly. Consistently. Without explanation. The upward baseline is not coming. It is already set. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.